Kicked out at 18, my sister and I bought a rusted Quonset for $5. What it became changed us. The letter sat on the kitchen table like a death sentence. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. I read it 3 times, my hands trembling before I finally understood. Our landlord was selling the property, and at 18, with my 16-year-old sister Mara depending on me, we were about to be homeless. Our parents had died in a car accident 2 years earlier. Since then, I'd been working double shifts at a diner while finishing high school, barely scraping together enough for rent and food. Now even that fragile stability was crumbling. What are we going to do, Jamie? Mara's voice cracked as she stood in the doorway, her backpack still slung over one shoulder. I tried to smile, tried to be the strong older sibling she needed. We'll figure it out. We always do. But that night, lying awake on my creaky bed, I had no idea how. The impossible search. For 2 weeks I scoured rental listings. Everything was either too expensive or wouldn't accept an 18-year-old with a 16-year-old, dependent and no cosigner. Apartments, rooms, even studio spaces, all doors slammed shut the moment landlords learned our situation. You need a legal guardian, one property manager told me dismissively. Come back when you have real adults to vouch for you. Real adults. As if I hadn't been adulting harder than most people twice my age. With 1 week left, desperation drove me to expand my search beyond conventional housing. That's when I found it. A classified ad in the local paper. Handwritten and barely legible. Quonset hut for sale, as is land lease available. $5,000 OBO. $5,000. I had exactly $5,340 in my savings. Every penny from tips, birthday money, and our parents' tiny life insurance payout after funeral costs. The next day, Mara and I borrowed our neighbor's truck and drove 40 minutes outside town to meet the seller. The rusted dream. The property was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by fields that stretched to the horizon, and there it stood, a Quonset hut that looked like it had survived a war and lost. The corrugated metal was red with rust peeling in strips. One window was broken, covered with cardboard. The door hung crooked on its hinges. Weeds grew waist-high around it. "This is it?" Mara whispered, her disappointment palpable. An elderly man approached from a nearby farmhouse, leaning heavily on a cane. "You the one who called about the Quonset?" "Yes, sir." "I'm Jamie, this is my sister Mara." He studied us for a long moment. "You kids running away from something?" "Running towards something," I corrected. "We need a place to live. Our parents died and we just got evicted." His weathered face softened. "How old are you?" 18. "Just graduated high school. I work full-time and I can pay rent on the land." He was quiet, then said, "Come look inside." The interior was worse than the exterior. Dust coated every surface. The concrete floor was cracked. There was no insulation, no proper bathroom, just a chemical toilet in the corner. The kitchen consisted of a rusty sink connected to nothing. But it was also enormous, about 800 square feet of open space with high, arched ceilings. "Built it in 1952, the old man said. "Used it for storage for decades. Been meaning to tear it down, but..." He trailed off. "My wife and I started our life in something not much better than this. 43 years we were married before I lost her last spring." "I'm sorry," I said softly. He cleared his throat. "The listing says 5,000, but I can tell you don't have much. What can you actually afford?" I hesitated. If I gave him everything, we'd have nothing for repairs or emergencies. But if I lowballed him, we'd lose this chance. "I have $5,300 total. I could give you 5,000 and keep the rest for..." $5, he interrupted. "I'm sorry? You seem like good kids. Hard workers. The kind who'll actually use this place for something real." His eyes glistened. "My wife always said we should help young people trying to make their way. So I'll sell it to you for $5. And you can lease the land for $100 a month, deal?" Mara grabbed my arm, her eyes wide. I could barely speak. "Deal!" The first night. We moved in with 2 sleeping bags, a camping stove, and everything we owned packed into trash bags and boxes. That first night, lying on the cold concrete floor, listening to wind whistle through gaps in the metal. Reality crashed down on me. What had I done? This wasn't a home, it was a rust bucket. No heat, no water, no electricity. Winter was 4 months away. Beside me, Mara started crying softly. "Hey," I whispered, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "Remember what Dad used to say?" "Everything starts somewhere," she sniffled. "Exactly. This is our somewhere. It's a really terrible somewhere, Jamie." I couldn't help but laugh. And soon she was laughing too. And then we were both crying and laughing in the darkness of our rusted metal shell, building our fortress. The next morning I made a plan. I'd watched enough home improvement videos during slow shifts at the diner to know the basics. We needed electricity, water, insulation, and heat in that order. Mr. Hendricks, the old man who'd sold us the Quonset, turned out to be our unlikely guardian angel. When I asked about running electricity from his property, he not only agreed but helped me do the work. "Ran electrical in the Navy," he explained, teaching me how to properly install outlets and connect breaker boxes. "Your father would want someone looking out for you girls." For water, we installed a 500-gallon tank on the roof and connected it to a simple pump system. It wasn't fancy, but it worked. Mr. Hendricks let us fill it from his well. Insulation was the hardest part. We couldn't afford spray foam, so I bought rolls of fiberglass insulation and spent 2 weeks covering every inch of the curved interior walls. Mara helped, wearing gloves and a mask, standing on our second-hand ladder while I worked the higher sections. We covered the insulation with plywood panels. I bought third-hand from a construction site renovation. It wasn't pretty, but it was functional. For heat, I found a used wood stove on Craigslist for $150. Mr. Hendricks helped me install it properly, and suddenly our metal shell could get warm. The transformation. 3 months in, our Quonset was becoming livable. I'd partitioned the space into a small bedroom for Mara, a smaller one for me, and a main living area with our kitchen, really just a hot plate, mini fridge, and that sink I'd finally connected to our water system. Mara painted the interior walls white to brighten the space. We found an old couch on the curb and reupholstered it with fabric from a thrift store. Every paycheck I bought something small, curtains, a rug, picture frames. But the real magic happened when Mara started talking about the Quonset at school. "There's this girl in my class whose family is struggling," she told me one evening. "They might lose their apartment." I told her how we fixed up this place. "And she wants to know if you could help them do something similar. Her dad's handy but doesn't know where to start." That weekend I met with Maria's family. They'd found an old storage shed on a friend's property they could use, but it needed work. I spent the day showing them what I'd learned: basic electrical, insulation techniques, water systems. "You should charge for this," Maria's father said. "People would pay for this knowledge." The idea planted itself in my mind. The business we built. I started small, a simple website offering Dear Housing Consultation for people in desperate situations like ours. Young people aging out of foster care, families facing eviction, anyone falling through society's cracks. I charged $50 for a consultation, $200 for a full day of hands-on help. Word spread. Within 6 months, I had more clients than I could handle while keeping my diner job. Mara became my assistant, documenting our projects with photos and videos. She created social media accounts showcasing our transformations, and suddenly we had thousands of followers watching families turn sheds into homes, vans into mobile housing, condemned buildings into livable spaces. The story that changed everything came a year after we'd bought our Quonset. A local news station contacted us about doing a feature on unconventional housing solutions for the homeless crisis. The segment aired on a Tuesday evening. By Wednesday morning, my phone was ringing off the hook. Growing pains. Success brought new challenges. I hired 2 friends from high school who needed work, training them in everything Mr. Hendricks and I had learned. We formed a small company, Shelter Solutions. But with growth came scrutiny. A city inspector showed up at our Quonset, citing code violations. The fact that we were living in an unpermitted residential structure meant we were technically squatters. I spent weeks navigating bureaucracy, getting retroactive permits, ensuring our electrical and plumbing met code. It cost nearly everything we'd earned, but it made us legitimate. Mr. Hendricks helped again, attending zoning board meetings and vouching for us. These kids have done more with that old rust bucket than I ever did, he told the board. They're exactly the kind of residents we should support. We won the permits. The call that changed us. 2 years after buying the Quonset, I received a call from a nonprofit in the city. We've been following your work, the director said. We have funding to create transitional housing for homeless youth. Would you consider partnering with us? The project was ambitious. Convert an abandoned warehouse into 30 micro-apartments using affordable, innovative techniques. They wanted me to lead the design and construction training. I was 20 years old. I don't have a degree, I said. I barely graduated high school. You have something better, experience, and you understand what it means to need shelter when society has given up on you. I accepted. Full circle. The warehouse project took 8 months. We hired 15 homeless youth, teaching them construction skills while building their future homes. Mara, now 18 and graduated, managed the social media campaign that raised additional funding. The day we cut the ribbon, I stood in front of the completed building, clean, warm apartments where there had been nothing, and thought about our rusted Quonset. That $5 purchase hadn't just given us shelter, it had given us purpose. Mr. Hendricks attended the ceremony, now using a wheelchair but still sharp as ever. Your parents would be proud, he told me, his hand gripping mine with surprising strength. We couldn't have done it without you. Nonsense. You two did this yourselves. I just didn't get in the way. What it became. Today, Shelter Solutions has helped over 300 families create affordable housing. We've expanded to 3 cities, always focusing on people the system has failed. Mara runs our nonprofit arm, providing free consultations to those who can't afford to pay. The Quonset still stands on Mr. Hendricks's property. We don't live there anymore. We bought a small house nearby, but we kept it. It's now our office and workshop, where we train others in the skills that saved us. The rust is gone, replaced by fresh red paint. The windows are new, the door hangs straight. Inside, the walls are covered with photos of every project we've completed, every family we've helped. Sometimes, when I'm there alone, I run my hand along the curved metal walls and remember that first night. Cold, scared, uncertain. I remember thinking we'd made a terrible mistake. But that rusted Quonset hut taught us what we were capable of. It taught us that home isn't about perfection or having everything figured out. It's about shelter in the storm. About building something from nothing. About refusing to let circumstances define your future. It changed us because it demanded we change ourselves. Every nail we hammered, every wire we connected, every wall we built, we weren't just creating a home. We were creating the people we needed to become. And sometimes the best transformations start with $5 and a willingness to see possibility in ruins.